Hello, Profit Hackers. I'm Jeremy Lott, the Chief Visionary for Foundation Accounting and Consulting. I owned a construction company for about 15 years before making a change to accounting because my accountants sucked. My goals are to simplify accounting for construction company owners, fuel your profits, level up your cash flow, and help you grow in a financially responsible way. So let's go. Hello, Profit Hackers, and welcome to the Contractor Profit Hack Show. Today, I have a special guest, my good friend, Dan Revisto. I am truly honored and reverenced to be called a friend of his. We have had a lot of fun since we've gotten to know each other. He moved to Utah, which is where I'm at, a couple of years ago.
It'll be 4 in April.
4?
Yeah.
Wow. And Dan, being the avid business person that he is, got into networking quite heavily. And I had the opportunity to meet with him and do a one-to-one. He was a member of BNI at the time, and sent me his gains worksheet for those of you that are familiar with BNI.
That's right.
And I looked it over and did some research and saw many of the cool things that were on there. One of which is that he was friends with Rocky Marciano.
My father was.
Well,
Yes.
you were too, by default.
Kind of, sort of.
He likes to say that Rocky slept in his bed, but not with him.
Never quite phrased it that way. But, okay. It's accurate.
And Dan has had such a varied background with real estate and mortgage lending, and more recently in just kind of general business lending and reverse mortgages. But before that, he was in the music industry. He was a promoter. Yep. And so he has a lot of great stories about different bands and some of the experiences he had with some of them. And some of the friendships and some of the maybe enemies that were developed as a result of that.
Not too many.
But previous to that, he did do some bookkeeping for his father, who was a promoter of sorts himself, political promoter. Up in the Northwest, up in the Seattle area, correct? And so Dan has had a whole lot of experience with a wide variety of things throughout his life, and really understands business and life and politics and kind of how they all work together. One of the things that Dan likes to say is that he's truly honored by the term friend. Yeah. And I would definitely call Dan a really close friend of mine. So it's an honor to have you here today, Dan.
Thank you. And you're a special friend. So it is an honor. It's the greatest blessing you can have. I hadn't really thought that I had asked much of God, and it wasn't that long ago. I had the memory that as a little kid, I actually asked him that all I wanted was friends, and he's overblessed me through the years. Literally everything that you rattle off, quite a few things, and I am an old guy that's done a lot of stuff. But literally at every one of those crossroads, a friend was involved in that decision. It wasn't because I got a scholarship to do something or went to this school or that thing. Literally at every intersection in my life, a friend has been involved. So I do really mean that when I'm really honored to be called a friend by somebody. And it's sincere coming from you, I know all too well. So thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, certainly. So I
It's Jeremy, right?
correct.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Right off the bat.
Dad jokes are very welcome here.
I qualify.
I wanted to have Dan on because he has a great understanding of money, and his profession is, as I mentioned earlier, right now, it is helping people to find the money they need to grow their businesses. He does, as I mentioned, reverse mortgages as well, and other types of lending. But a big focus of his is on helping companies to really be able to grow and to reach their goals. And so I wanted to have him on here to chat briefly today because his thoughts about cash and about debt are right in line with mine. And we wanted to talk today just about how this different mentality on debt and lending can help a business to be much more healthy financially than just a regular business with no debt, trying to do cash only. So a lot of businesses out there trying to do cash only. We can thank Dave Ramsey and other talking heads for that. I like to say that Dave Ramsey has some good strategies for an individual and their personal finances that are, especially if they're on a fixed income. His strategies definitely make sense. But let's go ahead and go right into this whole concept. What is it about a cash-only strategy with a business that makes business really hard?
I'll give you a really easy analogy. How about hand tools only for your contractors? Let's just do that. It's really safe. No one's going to drive a nail through their leg because they probably won't line a nail up and do it. Really safe, right?
Yeah.
How productive is it going to be in this world?
Right.
Give me a break. So, the concept of capital is a tool. And if you can't use capital properly, you're going to be like most of the world, which can't compete with the United States. I was working with a modular home builder in Canada.
Uh-huh.
They only wanted to build as many as they had the cash on hand to do it. Uh-huh. And we were coming to them with orders of hundreds of units. We were successful, the great design. They hired some of us down in the States to get these out there, find some sales. We were very successful. They couldn't deliver on the orders. So what's the point? So you've heard me say it. If you scare easy, don't own a business. Stay an employee. There's nothing wrong with it. And that advice of Dave Ramsey, don't just take debt. Don't be scared. Great. But that isn't the same as not utilizing capital to grow your business and as a tool for your business.
Right.
And I can show you time examples over and over again where in the worst economy, I lived through Jimmy Carter. My father and I went to the bank and borrowed money when that economy was delivering us loans at prime +3 and prime was 19.5. Okay. And our margins at that painting company were very small. So I learned very early on that regardless of the cost of that money, that was extremely expensive, 22.5% for a commercial loan so we could buy. But that piece of equipment allowed us to sign this contract with this big screw manufacturer in Tacoma, Washington, and it tripled our sales. Gee, should we have listened to Dave Ramsey and stayed in our hole to be safe and not borrowed money at 22.5? Maybe. But we did what a lot of companies during that time frame did, and I can rattle off some. Anybody ever heard of Apple? Heard of Home Depot? Those are companies that started during the Jimmy Carter years when prime rate was out ridiculous. So don't equate interest rate heights or the cost of capital with whether or not the economy can deliver goods. It's the opportunity. You've heard me say it. It's not the cost of the hammer. It's how much that hammer is going to make you.
Yeah.
So that's really more of it's about. That's why I resonate so well to the kind of things you talk about so often, which is these are simple concepts. Doesn't mean it's easy. You got to have the intestinal fortitude to face those decisions of whether you should borrow that $100,000 in order to make $200,000. That's not what we're saying. But capital's a tool. So that's the best way for me to answer that part of it is let's deal with it like a tool, not as some kind of emotional codependent relationship scaring us at night because we're borrowing money for our business. I mean, that's silly.
Yeah. A lot of people have that kind of codependent, scared relationship. Even as business owners now, people really struggle with that kind of mindset. What are some things, I guess, that you've done over the years to change that mindset and look at things from where you look at them now?
I think I don't want to say that it doesn't make sense or it's bad or it's good.
Yeah.
I try to stay out of the good, bad conversation because that's also that codependent thing. I've been there. I've been up at 3 a.m. wondering how the heck am I going to make that mortgage payment or how am I, is this, so I'm not minimizing it. However, it's like a lot of things that might be scary or frightening or stressful. Acknowledge it first. Acknowledge that, hey, that's an emotional reaction I'm having here. And then maybe you can put that over in the box, deal with the emotion, and now let's try to deal with it as a business decision because it really is just a business decision. I have to call people up and tell them, yeah, you applied for $200,000, you're being approved for $70,000. It's not what you want to hear. It's like a coach sitting on the sideline. You want a coach that's just because you're great. Keep doing that. No, you have to be able to hear those messages. And I think only because I've lived as long as I had enough of this times experiences helping people find money for them, but also dealing with it on my own, it's a little easier to remove the emotion from the transaction in my head. And that's going to get you a lot closer to just looking at the facts, just the numbers. It's kind of that, it's just the facts, ma'am. I'm dating myself there. It's just math. It's just math. And money doesn't care what pocket it's in. You can be codependent about it. Money doesn't care about you. It doesn't. And so there you go. I guess one way to look at it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
When it comes to money and mindset, I mean, we've kind of already addressed it, but what are some of the biggest things that are holding people back, in your opinion, from really being able to establish wealth?
Well, wealth, kind of more of that financial advisor thing. If I was going to advise anyone, as I've advised my children or anyone else, real estate's always involved with wealth acquisition. So there's a lot of business and owners that we deal with that rent their space. And I'd encourage as many of them as possible to get that dream of owning their location, owning the building, because that's where real wealth comes in long-term wealth. So if I'm going to advise everybody on that kind of thing, but it's also, it's really in the execution. You know, try to remove that emotion from your decisions in business and then be prepared for taking advantage of those opportunities. That's the other one that let me put it to you this way. I have this conversation with business owners a lot where they get a hold of me and they think, well, don't ask for $200,000. Let's ask for $100,000. It'll be easier to get approved for less. When in reality, it's actually easier to get approved for more, especially when you talk about small business loans and things like that, because it's really what you need. So don't be afraid to dream a little big, and prepare as far in advance as possible. I have clients that write offers, then contact us to put all their stuff together, and they want to close in 4 weeks on a commercial loan of $2 million. Let's avoid that. It's no different than getting approved for a residential home purchase. We've trained the market into thinking, hey, let's get your ducks in a row now so that you can buy a home 6 months from now. The market kind of understands that. They didn't 30, 40 years ago. I think small business owners, let's prepare now and try to get the emotions out of it. They don't want to tell us everything. They don't want to share with you or share with me all the things, So.
All this, especially the struggles that they're having.
Yeah. I think there's a misconception by business owners that they're unique in as much as they're the only ones struggling and their business is seasonal. I hear that one all the time. Well, I ask them, what are you doing on a monthly average for the last 6 months? It takes me 3-4 minutes for them to answer that. And that takes me to this one. And this one, I think you help people a lot with this. Know your numbers. I mean, when I was running a small concert company, I could tell you what I spent on catering 6 months ago. I could tell you the profit and loss within a ballpark, probably within 3 to 4%. I knew my numbers. I lived my numbers. I breathed my numbers. I'm shocked how many times when I ask someone, well, tell me what'd you gross last year and what are you on track to do this year? I get a big pause and then I get a story. That surprises me. And that tells me they either aren't working with somebody like yourself, which they desperately need, or they're avoiding being in the numbers and they're trying to be focused on their business. And that freaks me out, how you could be in business and not be nerding out on your numbers and be able to say to me, oh, well, we did 2.6 million last year. We're on track to do 3.2. We're a little bit, that's what I'm expecting to hear from a business owner.
Right.
And I'd say that's 5% of the people I talk to or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I love you often say that accounting is third grade math.
Oh, yeah. And I had it down in second. And it is. You know that. It's simple. Mm-hmm. But that you've heard me say this 100 times. I know. Simple's not easy. And that's the part. Because it's simple, they put it off. Well, I'll do it next week. I'll get to it because it's simple.
Right.
No, it's not the same as easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy at all.
Right. Yeah. And we talk often about the M&Ms on my podcast here.
Absolutely.
And you, big supporter of that.
Oh yeah,
I appreciate that.
I have a green felt or a velvet jumpsuit with my logo on it because of the inspired by Jeremy.
Right. Yeah. And so, like you said, easy, not necessarily simple, but my experience has been that people aren't necessarily afraid of their numbers. They're afraid of all the stupid accounting rules. And so that kind of intimidates people, I think, a lot away from understanding what, the simple numbers of their business and knowing how to make adjustments because, there's 1,000,001 rules on how you record revenue. And the M&M strategy kind of steps away from that to simplify and make it easier to understand.
I love it. I mean, it takes this, it brings up simplicity and it raises it. I was an executive at Countrywide Home Loans, which at the time was the largest lender on the planet. Literally. I mean, 1 out of every 6 mortgage was a Countrywide home loan. And I'm sitting in a room with 32 other of the executives from around the nation, and they're using all these words and fancy things and derivatives and all this. And I stayed quiet and was asked to participate, and I actually said just that. I said, listen, this is third grade math. You can call it anything you want. I was a math major in college, and I've never used anything I learned in trig or calculus or advanced algebra, nothing. It's adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So I say that to people, a lot of our business owners, to try to build confidence. You've got this.
Yeah.
You actually have this. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to understand the tax strategies or the tax code or all those kind of things. That's a whole different thing. But you really do and can understand. I think there's a lot of people out there that are hired by intimidation because only I have this knowledge and I've got this and you need me for this and you need me for that. It's actually very simple. What I do with people about borrowing money, it's not that complicated, but it's not easy.
Right.
And that's where that's one of the reasons I love your M&M thing, because I think it helps people go, oh, I can understand this. And you stress margins, which is really important, and why people don't, and the kind of things you should put into the cost of capital. How often does somebody come to you and they've got that already preset in their margins? I bet almost none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you and I do nerd out on this stuff and we see eye to eye on it. But I love that approach because they can grasp this. This is doable.
Yeah.
But don't leave the basics out. And if you're not putting capital in there along with your fuel and the people you're hiring and the supplies, you're missing out on a big cost that's going to take you down.
Right.
And quick.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in fact, we just had this conversation yesterday with a gentleman that we're working with, one of my clients that I sent in your direction, and we won't use any names or anything like that, but we had this same type of conversation with him yesterday.
Yeah.
About that. Would you mind reviewing kind of his scenario and what's going on there?
I enjoyed it immensely for a number of reasons. One, probably the main thing is he was extremely receptive he actually listened versus thinking in his head what next he wasn't assuming anything, which is what's great in communication when you really, I'm not going to assume what you're going to ask me, and I'm going to listen to your response, and I'll ask a question. So he's fantastic in that regard. But he's sitting on a great opportunity. Here's a guy doing good business, great trade work, and he's got an opportunity that, it may triple or quadruple the volume. I mean, literally, with having one B to B type relationship, which is awesome. He's positioned perfectly. He's got the experience. Got the know-how, and he's got an opportunity. Plus, with a vendor that is ideal. I mean, so great opportunity, but he doesn't have the capital to take advantage of it. He's going to need to acquire enough capital to do that, and he doesn't have the time to do an SBA loan. Nor is he really doing the size. One of the things that I think people don't know, as a commercial lender, if I go out there and try to get you money, if the loan is less than $300,000 in today's market, I have almost zero banks that are going to talk to me about an SBA loan. It doesn't make anybody any money.
Right.
So in the world of needing like $100,000 or $200,000, which is where probably 80% of our businesses and the trades are going to be in that slot, SBA is it's not really in play. So what used to be a great opportunity just isn't there in this marketplace. But he understood very quickly that he doesn't have, even if it was an SBA loan we could do, he doesn't have 8 weeks to get back to the guy and say, yeah, I'll do your job. He's probably got a few days to get back to him and say, yeah, I want to do those. I want to help you build those homes over there. Can you do it now?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't? Okay, I'm going to the next guy.
Yeah.
So that's a 4 or 5 day decision, maybe 2 weeks at most.
Yeah, at most.
At most. So we can deliver that kind of capital, but speed costs.
It does.
It's just that simple. And also ease of getting those kind of loans. The lenders that are in that marketplace, they're unsecured commercial loans, and they're basically looking at your cash flow.
Yeah.
So it's not a hard thing to get you a decision, But if you can imagine and it's not really an interest rate, what the factor of paying those loans back is going to be. If you're a lender and you've got a couple $1 billion to lend, are you going to send money out just because it's a great story? No, you're going to secure it, and it comes at a high risk because it's going to have a high failure rate. So the factors to paying this stuff back sometimes shock people because most of them, their experience with lending is their mortgage. That's what they know, and their credit card.
Yeah, maybe a car.
Maybe a car. Yeah, those are where they've borrowed money. Student loans, we won't even go there, but yeah, I mean that's their experience. So if somebody comes to me and says, "I want to borrow $100,000," I say, "Okay, I can get you that loan, fund it in 2 days. You're probably going to be paying back $120, maybe $130 in a period of maybe up to a year, 6 months." They freak out. They freak out because they think in terms of an interest rate. It's really not an interest rate. It's a repayment factor. And I can nerd out about this for hours. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I mean, if you really look at what long-term mortgages cost you, you borrow $400,000, you pay back like $1 million. So the cost of that loan because of the long time actually is way more than those short-term loans. But regardless of that, it's not good or bad. We can get a guy like that the capital he needs to take advantage of the opportunity. And what I loved about that conversation is you were there so that I could say, is that if it's going to cost you 1.25 payback, so a factor of 25%, so you're paying back 125, will the margin support that? And you were there to go through that with him, and he's going, yeah. So there it is. The cost of the hammer is going to be $1.25. It costs you $1 to buy the hammer. You're going to pay back $1.25, but that hammer is going to make you what? 300? 400? I mean, that's really the conversation in your head, not how much the interest rate is, because it's not really an interest rate.
Right.
It's a repayment factor. And I mean, I think he came to the conclusion if he can get this capital, he'll be able to take advantage of this opportunity and maybe triple his business over the next 12 months. Tell me if that's worth it.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I loved that conversation because he was able to go through it. Now he's making the decision and he's fully in control. It's not Jeremy or Dan telling him what to do.
Right. And I would add in there, he is also scared to death.
Oh.
Which is perfectly normal.
Yeah.
And like Dan said, take that emotion, that's wonderful, set it over here and deal with the facts.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably, if he really was to trace that emotion, it's not the first time he's probably had that, experienced that.
Right.
He probably did it the first time he bought a truck for his business or had his first hired, there's been a lot of these, but when experiences turn in pleasant, you forget the pain.
Yeah.
And I if I'm going to advise anybody, don't forget your pain. That's tuition. You pay dearly for those painful experiences like bankruptcy. I don't need to educate you on that one.
Right.
I've been there as well. I've been there. I had to bankrupt a concert company I was involved in because of a partnership disagreement.
Yeah.
It was painful. If I tried to forget that, I would have retained none of it as the costly tuition to that lesson.
Yeah.
So he might be scared to death, but if you really trace that emotion, that's a class you've sat in before. You've got this.
Yes.
You're a successful business owner and you put crews together and last as long as he has. He's got this.
Yeah.
Would you be scared? Yeah, it's called stress.
And unknown.
There you go. But I think he can handle it. He's got the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think the outfit that's offering him the opportunity wouldn't offer it to him if they didn't believe that he could show up and do the work that they need on their I forget how many homes they're talking about building. So, yeah, it's again, I'm not saying it's not stressful, it's not scary. Yeah, but there's people with the intestinal fortitude that can meet that and go, yeah, okay, and then they move on.
I love that you use intestinal fortitude instead of testicular fortitude.
Well, yeah. I don't use those big words like that. Let's avoid that one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's see, with this whole process, when would somebody know that they need to come talk to you? What are some things that happen in their business? What kind of goals? What is it that is happening in these different people's lives that make them in an ideal situation to come and talk to you?
It was probably 3-4 years ago when the first time I heard about the folks that ask as CEOs. What are the fractional CEOs?
Oh, yeah.
I hadn't heard of that. It just hadn't bumped into it. I'd been dealing with pretty large companies when I was up in the Northwest. So they all had CEOs and CFOs and COOs. They had every seat under the planet. But it was about 4 years ago when I came down here, I started running into folks like you that do fractional CFO work. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And I wish people had CLOs or loan folks on their board of directors. And I actually, as part of the Connect Utah world, I try to encourage people. I said, listen, whether you do a loan with me or not, keep me as a resource. You need to have that on your kind of personal board of directors, but in your business board of directors, because you need to explore ideas. No different than your foreman or project manager or accountant that you explore ideas with. But you're probably unique in this, but I will bet that most folks that have accountants and CPAs doing their taxes or helping them with their books or doing their bookkeeping, the amount of lending experience that they actually have in sourcing revenue, and I'm going to stress it like that because sourcing revenue isn't just going to a bank. Those days are long gone. So you need to have somebody that's either been there, done it, to explore ideas. Say, hey, listen, next year we're actually thinking about doing this. Let's have that conversation. What does that mean? Too often they're calling me when they want to write an offer on that warehouse they want to buy, or when mom and dad are being kicked out of their house, or whatever it might be. The fans here and the proverbials right there.
Right.
How about backing us up a little bit? Let us be part of the creative aspect of what capital's about. Let it be your friend, not let's not think about that. Let's not think about that. So that's a long way of me saying it. I wish I was more part of that creative business management conversation.
I like that.
You know what I'm
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You have that relationship with your clients that hire you.
And with you.
Well, absolutely.
So by default, my clients have that.
Absolutely. Lately I've been, the other thing that I hadn't heard a lot, I grew up, my father was a consultant more than a promoter. He was a business consultant, which was a rare thing in the early 60s.
Yeah.
But what I learned from him and watching that process go, now a lot of people call it coaching, life coaching, financial coaching. Everywhere I look, there's a coach. And maybe you've heard me say it, but I've gotten up and said to people, well, let me be your loan coach, because there's pretty much not a loan that I've either done as a lender or done as a borrower out there. First SBA loan I technically worked on, I did spreadsheets for my father who was helping a company. I was 16, so that's 54, almost 55 years ago. So I've been around it. I watched him, and I've always loved math. So, because there's an answer, there's a solution.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can come up with a plan. So I wish more people engaged early on about having those conversations and what it might look like. Sometimes they think I only want to talk to them when they're ready to make an application for something. No, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
I'll nerd out about it regardless when. 2 years from now, okay, cool, awesome.
Yeah. Well, and with your experience, you can get really creative. I know we have a mutual friend with a farm that you recently were able to share some advice and experience with that is really going to help them out with their lending and all of that.
Well, it's an approach.
Yeah.
And that particular one is an example of when they acquired a very large agricultural property. The only way you could do it, the way it was set up, was get it from a local bank, and probably one that's comfortable with ag loans and stuff like that. Makes sense. But if you were to look at the 3,000 lenders or whatever that are out there, that's going to be like a
fraction.
Yeah, very small, which means limited programs, limited stuff. So when he's telling me about some of the stuff he'd done, I advised him. I said, listen, here's how you can take your huge property that nobody in the real world, all the regular residential lenders are ever going to want to loan you a penny on.
Yeah.
We can change that. You can just short plat it. Now, you still own the whole piece, but we're going to create this smaller piece that now we have 300 lenders that want to lend on this.
Yes.
And it was like light bulbs went off for them.
Yes.
And I'm just giving them options based on, well, here's how I can get you the money and get it to you. Like, let's have 20 offers instead of one.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, that may have been a little bit of drinking from the fire hose there for a lot of us. But just to kind of summarize, so you know what's going on there. He talks about these ag loans. One of the problems with them is that they're really large amounts and really short terms. Yeah. And so you get toward the end of a term and they'll want a big balloon payment. Yeah. And you have to scramble and do everything you can to refinance. Yeah. Well, if you hit a point for whatever reason where you struggled to refinance at the end of that period, then you're in a really bad place.
Right. The other thing that I think people should know about that, I'm glad you brought it up. I did unpack a lot there.
Yeah.
with an assumption. Agricultural loans, ag loans, farm loans, anything like that, they're mostly commercial loans done by banks that have a comfort zone in that area.
Yeah.
But they're also lending what's called a portfolio loan. It's their money being underwritten by their board of directors and whatnot. They're not selling it on the secondary market. Okay. So there isn't this, the risk is all held by that one bank, and banks' risks go up and down based on their books. So you can go to a bank and they'll be like, yeah, we'll give you that money. You're approved. Boom. You come back to them 2 years later and you think, yeah, we just need to redo that note. Yeah, we can't do that because the bank's in trouble.
Right.
Okay. And I can give you hundreds of examples of this. And I worked with a lot of major builders in the Northwest. And we used to, when I was speaking in front of about 100 of them one time, and I said, oh, good, you're having fun with lending with Dan today. And I get to tell you why all your loans are being denied, which they were. And they're all freaking out because these are builders. They want to stay in business. And it had nothing to do with them, had nothing to do with the credibility, had nothing to do with their market. It was all about the banks and where the banks were at and their liquidity. Yeah. So that's a bad thing. But what I advised my friend to do by taking his 84, 85, whatever amount of huge one chunk property and creating this smaller piece in there, by doing that 10-acre parcel, now I have 300 lenders I can go to, which all sell the note on the secondary market.
Yeah.
Which means there's ultimate liquidity. It's called Fannie, Freddie, FHA. So these are things that people are comfortable with. When you buy your house, it's very rare that bank that lends it to you, if it is a bank, keeps the note. It's sold on the secondary market.
Right.
So liquidity, that program's never going to go away. It isn't going to come and go by the liquidity of that one lender. Right. Where ag loans are classic for that. They come and go, and now you're screwed looking for that renewal on that note that you talked about, because they aren't long. They're long-term amortization, but they have a balloon payment, typically anywhere from as little as 2 up to 10 years, and usually it's 5. It's not cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool at all.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps
understand
what the real dynamics on commercial loans and things like agriculture, stuff like that, has to do with the risk and that that the whether or not there's a secondary market for that
Right.
loan and note. That's what changes everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the moral of the story here is that, Dan's tagline is he goes where the banks don't go.
Yep.
Right. And we've seen that here because there are creative options out there to get things done.
Yeah.
And a lot of my listeners are developers, or they're doing spec homes,
Yep.
those kind of things. And a lot of them and a lot of other prospective developers or spec home builders get hung up because of the capital. Mm-hmm. And if we can introduce some creativity into the process on acquiring the land and on the development costs and all of those kind of things, there really are a lot more options for somebody that isn't going to qualify for a traditional home development loan.
Yep.
To be able to get into that market and pursue that.
Yeah, I love spec builders. I cracked my eye teeth in real estate as a dirt dog. Mm-hmm. And in case people don't know what that is, it was a realtor that would go out and find land, sell it to the developer, the spec builder, and then I get the list backs. So the real money was on the back end, but I was very good at that. And I love the creativity of it, rather than just showing Bobby and Susie a house and, they buy their house. And there's nothing wrong with Bobby and Susie buying houses. But I really enjoyed finding the places where developers could come in and buy land. And in Seattle primarily is where this happened. It was building what they called zero lot line townhomes, or fee simple land building. And when that took off in the 80s up there, I went around looking for all the old houses on the right zoning and became a very successful dirt dog. It's how I eventually got to Countrywide and became Paul Allen's preferred lender. Paul Allen with Microsoft, their developer stuff. So we got to play with a lot of cool chess pieces from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So spec lending is a real near and dear heart. That's something I love. One of the cool things now that wasn't available back then, if you weren't a builder of substance 10, 20 years ago, and what I mean by that is you're building at least 50 specs a year, you didn't get money. Mm-hmm. Today, I can get spec money for somebody who's never done one. And that's kind of shocking. But when done right, we can get them to that level. And I love it. We get people that, especially your spec builders, if you've done 10 or more in the last 3 years, getting you access to the money that the big players get, it's actually doable today. And that's the kind of stuff that it really is exciting because it's reasonably priced money. It's a prime plus kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that there's someone out there listening to this that just heard what you said and has been banging their head against the wall trying to be able to get off the ground with that.
Yeah.
And now has some hope because there are ways to get it done and to get new people into that market.
Can I confess to you the hardest conversation I have with almost all of those people that are probably general contractors that have built for other people. And they're going, I know how to build a house. I want to do this. So here's the hardest conversation I have with every single one of them. They come to me and they say, hey, I've built 50, 60, 100. I've built 100 homes. Cool. I can get you the money. Well, they've built houses as the general contractor. And being a general contractor is not the same thing as a developer.
Correct.
Here's what a developer is.
Yeah.
I'll mention one that the most polarizing developer on the planet, Donald Trump. He's not a general contractor.
Right.
But he knows how to acquire, price, market, sell, and at
finance.
Finance. That's what a developer is. So taking a general contractor and turning him into a developer.
Yeah.
I did that with a guy that ran a framing crew, and he became the #1 townhome builder in Seattle. Okay. I was with him on that journey. So I've seen that, and it's absolutely doable. Being a good general contractor is a great thing. I was a good concert promoter because I'd literally done every job in that concert hall, from sound to lighting to whatever. So no one could fool me. I knew exactly what it took to do the show.
Right.
But I learned as a business person how to finance it, how to market it, how to do other things. Those are the things that GCs, they don't train, the HBAs don't have a course in marketing. They might, but it's a whole different thing being a developer, and I love that. But we can take somebody with zero developing experience today and get them the capital. They're going to pay more early on, but if we can get them to 10 homes and then 30 is the magic number. You get to 30 specs in your resume as a developer on title. You're getting the money like Ivory Homes, or you're getting the same rate those guys are getting, and we're closing in 2 weeks, and we're financing 100% of the vertical. I mean, we can do all sorts of magical things.
Yeah.
Because you've proven that you know how to be a developer, not just a guy that knows how to square up a foundation.
Right.
And I'm not belittling that.
No. Yeah, of course.
It's two different characters.
Worlds.
And it's also two different intestinal fortitudes, by the way. That developer comes with a whole different set of knowledge. But when you marry the two of them, when you find that GC that really has that developer mindset, it's really limitless what we can do with folks. And it's really fun. I'm working with a guy, he's working on his third spec right now. And I say he's probably got the best mindset of anybody I've met in the last 30 years. He's 26 years old. Where's he going to be in 10 years? It's really up to him.
Yeah.
But it's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's
that's
really
cool.
exciting. Yeah, I'm very optimistic about that kind of stuff. And I'm talking all residential here, because that's where that's the biggest volume market compared to commercial development and stuff like that.
Especially here in Utah.
Well, pretty much anywhere, actually.
With the housing shortages.
Yeah, big time. But I'm coming from Washington State, where it takes you 18 months to get a building permit in Snohomish County. Okay, so I can tell you horror stories. How about trying to build a hotel in Newport Beach? I have a friend of mine builds hotels. They're 8 years into that project, getting it off the ground. Yeah, no thanks.
Holy cow.
Yeah, you can imagine the laws and things they deal with in California or Seattle or some of these places.
Right.
Yeah, 50 lawsuits to build the Marriott in downtown Seattle. My friend went through. He built the Marriott north of where Seahawks play their football games. He's 50 lawsuits with the city at 9 years from the start of the project to actually starting construction.
To starting
construction.
Holy cow.
Yeah, 50 lawsuits. Won them all, cost the city a fortune. But, we've got a great opportunity here. I talk to builders here in Utah, and they can get permits in with some of these communities in weeks.
Yeah.
I'm used to years in some projects. So, but yeah, no, the opportunity is fantastic. And the money's there. The liquidity is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Want to shift gears just a little bit. I bring somebody to you, and usually one of the first things that you talk about is a HELOC.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people really cringe at that because they want to keep their home safe and away from their business risk.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a fallacy?
Well, I empathize with them, not sympathize. I empathize with them completely.
Yeah.
And a lot of the businesses I talk to, either it's the husband or the wife is their spouse doesn't want that to happen, or they don't want it to happen. And I get it. And I'm right up front with them. I say, listen, I need to know what we have available. I'm going to give you all the options.
Yeah.
Tell you that they're the ones steering the vehicle, right? Not me.
Right.
But I know we talked about that $100,000 loan that the guy was going to pay back $125,000 in a year. That's in Your world, that's 25% you paid back in interest there. Now, the reason I bring up HELOCs is it's the cheapest money on the planet in terms of liquidity and access.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a HELOC that literally today they can go online, and if it's on their rental property, they'll have the money in their account tomorrow. I mean, it's literally
Wow.
Yeah, it's happened. In fact, a realtor buddy that you met through me, friends of mine, they actually applied online, and we were at Pat's Barbecue, and she goes, "We've been approved, and the money's in our account tomorrow." I mean, it literally was that quick. So, in terms of speed and interest rate, there's nothing like it. Okay, because why? I've got hundreds of lenders that are competing for that product, and they've all built the product to make up for where interest rates went when they went up from 3% and 2.5%. HELOCs became popular from the lenders.
Yeah.
So everybody's got them. But I get why you're hesitant. I'm not saying you, but a business owner's hesitant. They don't want to do it. I want to keep my business separate. Okay, cool. Now we're going to do an SBA loan, and they're borrowing $600,000, and they sign what's called a personal guarantee.
Yep. Okay. Exactly.
It won't show up as a lien on their home, but it's there. You bankrupt that company, I guarantee you that lender's going to enforce that personal guarantee against your holdings. Now, is it quick and have you put some things in there? And yes, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not planning their estate.
Right.
There are ways to shield your assets, and smart people do that. But the person that's out there trying to get $100,000 or $200,000, one, the commercial loan pretty much doesn't exist. So that opportunity isn't there. So we can go revenue-based if you're in business. That's great. You've been in business long enough, and you have the cash flow that will get you a revenue-based loan. But sometimes it's a startup. What do we do then? And you absolutely hear me tell this to people. Listen, startups are self-funded. 99% of all businesses borrow money off their 401k, borrow money off a HELOC, get it from mom, dad, friend, relative. If you don't have equity in a home, get a partner who does. My concert company was funded because I didn't have any money, but I knew a guy that did, and he wanted to be in the concert business. We became partners. He was the equity partner. He was able to bring the capital, and I knew the people that would sell us concerts, and we started doing shows. It's being a business. So I tell people, listen, whether you want to do a HELOC or not, or your husband or your wife is going to say no, that's your decision. But that's the cheapest money in town. And like radically so. Like I think we approved a woman last week at 6.3. That's cheap money when you're talking 25% or 30% on a revenue-based loan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just know your tools, what they cost. Then you decide. But yeah, and I get it. It's personal debt, and it's right there. Yes, there is a lien, but you're lending the money to your own company. One quick story related to this. So I had a woman call me up. She wanted to buy a semi-tractor trailer rig. She wanted to go in the trucking business. She had researched it. It looked like a good thing. She had 2 drivers that she was just going to be the owner of the thing. She wanted to borrow $200,000 to buy the rig. Had never been in the business. Okay. I asked her, okay, you've never been in it. No, brand new. But I've researched it. And she seemed bright, smart, intelligent. It was her decision.
Yeah. Great.
I said, what do you have for assets? She goes, I have a home. What's or about $800,000. What do you owe on it? About $150,000. We got plenty of equity there. I can get you. Oh, no. I'm not doing that. I said, well, let's just be clear here. You're asking a lender to give somebody that's never been in the business with no experience $200,000. You want them to take the risk, but you don't want to take the risk in yourself. How do you think that should be priced? How do we price that one? She could have got the money. At that time, I think it would have probably been around 8%, because this is back a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But that's an example of, hey, if it's a great idea and you believe in it, cool. We don't close on great ideas.
Right. And you can't expect the capital to take on more risk than what you're willing to take on.
Or don't get angry at me when they come back and say, yeah, I'll lend you the 200 grand. You're going to pay me back 300.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Wait a minute. You've never been in this business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the kind of reality sets. Nobody thinks like a lender. They don't think about what would you do if you were lending the money? Would you say, hey, that sounds like a great idea. What could go wrong? Well, everything. Because in the land of commercial businesses, pretty much most businesses, startups fail. I mean, that's the assumption.
Yeah.
So find an equity partner or lower your cost by increasing the collateral that they want. And collateral that people want is residential real estate. Next is commercial real estate. And the last thing they want is undeveloped land. There's no interest in owning land as a lender for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in some cases with some loans, equipment or vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a whole different
That's a real niche.
Arena.
Yeah. Yeah. They're filing the UCC filings and they're comfortable with that. And that's what they're built for. They understand it.
Right.
And they have people that know how to collect. And yeah, I purposefully work with people that specialize in that. And I refer that business to them because it's a real niche. Or is it niche? What is it? Let's go with niche.
It sounds more highbrow.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I'm so highbrow.
Niche.
Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's just it's a risk conversation with any kind of loan that's out there, whether you're buying your first house, it's a commercial loan. It's all about weighing risk, and the cost of the money's going to be relative to the amount of the risk. And how many lenders do we have? We've got 10 lenders versus one. Who's going to be which one's going to be most expensive?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the just to kind of summarize there, the whole concept that I can keep my personal assets completely separate from my business debts is, for the most part, a misnomer.
It really is. Now, those revenue-based loans I was talking about, those often don't have a personal guarantee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, So again, but anytime that obviously raises the risk, raises the cost. So there are people. In fact, I was telling the story to a friend of mine yesterday. I knew a developer up in Idaho. In fact, I think you and I might have been talking about this guy. When I met him, he had built over 1,000 townhomes to date, almost all for rent, not for spec. And when I met him, he was venturing into the spec condo market. So he had this great design. And this is a guy that literally had built 1,000 buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd been around a long time. He never once is a big word. He almost never went to a bank. In fact, in the previous 10 years, he hadn't gone to a bank once. He borrowed the money from private sources. And the reason was real simple. He didn't care about the cost. He only did it if it made sense on the deal. And he could be in and out of the project in the time that it would take a bank to make a decision about his loan. So he says, speed's more important to me. So if I got to factor in 10%, okay, I'll factor in 10. If it's 20, okay. If the deal will support it, I'll do the deal. He didn't care what the rate was. He really didn't care. It was just whether it fit in the project specs and margins to support it. If the margin was supported, what did he care? If it was 20% or 2%? It really didn't matter. I mean, obviously he cared, but because it penciled out the lower it's going to be.
Right.
But he cared more about when can I get the money, when can I close on the deal, and when can I get going? Because also there's a thing called weather that impacts development. And it's hard to pour concrete in Minnesota, I found out in December. It doesn't happen. Or Alaska.
Right.
So, timing's everything.
Sometimes in Utah.
Yeah, sometimes in Utah. And also meeting that market. If you're building a house and the market's hot, if you get delayed, we did a loan for a gentleman last June. He just now got his permits in November. He thought he was going to have them in July. that's a costly amount of time of debt service.
Yeah.
But also he's missing the market. He's not delivering that home to a market. That market could tank. It happens, or Ivory brings on 500 homes across the street from you when a year earlier there weren't any homes in the neighborhood. It's easier to sell when you don't have competition. So timing's everything. So you weigh that, you got to factor that in.
Yeah.
So but kind of back where this all started, yes. The idea that you are free and you can make decisions, and just because you aren't going to do a HELOC or not sign a thing, that really isn't going to protect your business.
Right.
Not really.
Gotcha. I want to go back and just kind of review the deal that we were talking about, just so that people can kind of understand the simple numbers behind it.
Sure.
So the lender or the borrower would need maybe $80,000 to be able to get the capital to hire more people and to get the equipment that he needs to be able to do this new job.
Yep.
Right. And then he's going to pay 25% over the course of a year.
Probably.
It's probably going to be a weekly payment. And so if you, the one thing that people miss there is that you want to make sure and give yourself a buffer. And so if he gives himself a buffer of about 2 months, that's another 20,000 on top of that 80. And so rather than just going for 80, we would go for 100,000. That way he has 2 full months worth of payments in his account to help him get from the start to the time where he's actually getting enough money into his account to make those payments.
Yeah, I think that's really important for people to understand how those revenue-based loans are. And they're not terribly unique. I mean, it's if you're doing a lot of direct-to-consumer retail, there's a lot of people that do the MCA loans, advances from Square or from their credit card processor. That's a whole nother rabbit hole we could go down. But they're built very similar. They're giving you the revenue, but they're going to start taking it back right away. So to your point, if you only borrow what you think you need, like I need to buy a tractor trailer and hire 2 guys and this is going to cost me $80,000. Well, you get the 80 today. Now you do the work. And to your point, it's probably a 60-day cycle from start to finish where you get that first payment from that person you did the work for, because you've got to do the work.
Yeah.
Then you got to bill them. And if you're lucky enough to get somebody that pays you on time, you're probably still 60 days out. Well, in that 60 days, you might have as many as 8 payments drawn from that checking account. So that if you only borrow the 80, that 80 is probably going to be about 64,000.
Yeah.
Or it might be nothing. And then you're freaking out. So absolutely a great point. You need to borrow enough to be comfortable with that whole idea that, they're going to give you that $100,000 in your account next Wednesday. The following Wednesday, they're going to take out of their first payment of $2,500, then $2,500, and whether it's $2,500 or $3,000 or whatever it is. But to your point, let's just say it's $2,500. Well, 8 weeks later, that's $20,000. So that buffer is really important. So you're kind of borrowing the debt service as well, unless you've got proper cash flow and you can afford it. But just be aware of that. And that's also a thing that prevents people from doing these loans. Say, I don't want to do that weekly thing where they take it out of my checking account.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that lowers the risk, and it actually lowers the cost of that loan, because that lender doesn't have to have a collection and billing and servicing department the same as a lender that does monthly payments and processes payments and does all that. This is an automatic withdrawal. That's actually a cost savings to you. Yeah, you may not like it, but if you're used to it, that's how it works. So it's swimming downstream versus swimming upstream.
Yeah. And again, the point here is to look at the total amount of, we'll say, $125,000 after you've borrowed the 80 plus the 20 to make those payments, plus you're going to pay back an additional 25.
Yep.
The big question here is, are you going to make more than 125?
Yeah.
If you're going to make 150,000, that's 20% on your money. That's not too shabby. And at that point, you need to kind of evaluate how much money you need to be making, what percentage you need to be making in order for you to be willing to take on the risk.
Because that 20 you're borrowing to debt service, that's really their money. That's not your money. That's not really not a cost.
Right.
That 25,000 is the cost. So you got to factor that in. And as we walk through it with your client, it was definitely worth it, especially when you add the fact this puts him into a whole new level ball game where it allows him to take advantage of what might be an over 100 home project. The next thing the guys, I mean, it puts him in a whole, it not only is it profitable for this one? Yes. Oh, I've answered that. Okay, cool. But it puts them at a whole nother level and opens the doors to all sorts of things. That's where it's fun. Again, it's kind of like where we started. Do you want to just build stuff with hand tools and be safe? Yeah, okay, you sleep well at night. You don't have a lot of churning in your gut. You're hooked with that. But how many homes are you going to build with a hammer and nails versus using electricity and air compressors and, modern tools?
Right.
This is understanding modern capital. This is how it works. Modern capital doesn't want to send you a bill and hope you pay for it. They want to ACH it off your checking account. That lowers their risk. Okay. It's like texting. I don't like texting, but I got to live with it, right? So get with it. It's how it works and get comfortable with that. I'm not telling you that's the way to what to do, but understand that's how it's played. And then you're not wrestling with the decision so much or fighting with someone like me that's just trying to get you the tools you need so you can do more business.
Yeah.
That's really all I'm interested in. Yeah. It's not a good or bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a plus or minus, and it's a thing that you put in there. It's more of those green things.
It's green M&Ms.
Green.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So we're getting to the end of our time here. What else do contractors need to know that we haven't covered, if anything?
We've hit on a couple of things. If I was going to do a Dan rant, it's not talking early enough, and then we're no different than any other kind of vendor out there. If you want capital, you need to engage with someone like myself and be as responsive as you want me to be. I love contractors. They're type A, especially developers are type A personalities. But if I was going to complain at all, I'd say they like it on their schedule and not on ours. And they're not terribly responsive when it comes to
getting
what I can do. And here's the thing: if you want if you want a quick no, I can get you that. If you want a yes, I need things from you. So I need information, and I need it in a timely fashion. Because what I'm really doing as a commercial broker, I'm the narrator of your story. I'm selling you and your project, your credibility, your experience. I'm trying to get the best deal for you. So I'm out there selling a story, a narration, which I need the facts to back it up, and I need it in a timely. So if I get a lender excited about hearing what you've got, if I come back to you and say, hey, listen, I need 6 months bank statements, and I need a balance sheet and a P&L, and I need this and this. I don't need it one each over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
But if I get back to that lender more than 10 days later, he doesn't know who you are.
Doesn't care.
So if I was going to say anything, listen, talk as often, be prepared, know your numbers, work with a Jeremy, have a handle on those things. Yeah. Get lender ready. You and I've talked about this.
Yeah.
Getting people loan ready. It's a good thing. It's healthy. It's like going to the gym. It doesn't mean you're going to borrow money every day, but if you're able to come to me and you're loan ready, oh boy, can I get you lots of options. I can get you the most options. If you're one of those that come to me, you're a wannabe ready, and you give me things in a drip, 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 and I can engage that lender with an incomplete package, it's almost not worth the time. It really isn't. So crap in, crap out kind of a thing. Capital's just that way. If you're laying concrete, you probably have a great relationship and you're probably really responsive with the guy who supplies you with the concrete.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you capital. It requires things that you offer them so they can be lender ready. And I think being loan ready or lender ready, whatever you want to call it, is something I don't think enough businesses do, because it will actually improve what they do on their other decision-making process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be just for a loan. It's going to make them make correct hiring decisions, spending decisions, allocation of assets, and it's going to make their margins and those kind of decisions and pricing decisions way better, even if they aren't doing a loan this week with Dan or whomever. So get lender ready. It's really a good thing. It'll be good for your business health. It'll help you make decisions. It'll make you far more competitor with your competition, way better, because I can guarantee you how many of your competitors are lender ready. They're not. So why not have a leg up on them? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sort of
awesome.
It's an advantage.
Yeah.
Why not do it?
Yeah.
That's probably what I'd have to say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So when people hear this and they're super excited because you can be creative and help them find solutions and go where the banks don't go.
There you go.
How can they get in touch with you?
It's the easiest thing on the planet, scheduledan.com. Literally scheduledan.com, just like it sounds. My first name, Dan, and the word schedule. Go there, find a time that works for them. There's lots of slots. It's a 15-minute time commitment out of you and out of me. You pick a time that works for you. I'll call you. And that 15 minutes, I don't care if it's a $50,000 loan or it's a $5 million loan. It's enough time to get things started in the right direction. That I can guarantee you. We don't need 2 hours. We might, but in the future. But that 15-minute slot, it's so easy, and I'm available. I love to nerd out over this and would love nothing better, especially the builders and GCs out there and spec builders and wannabe spec builders, all of that stuff. There's nothing. You're going to get my attention. And scheduledan.com. It's that easy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on today.
Yeah, no, it's a real pleasure.
Yeah.
You and I, just for those listening, Jeremy is a special guy to me. He's one of the first people I got to know when I moved down here to Utah from Washington State. And he knows what he's doing. We're both ex-wrestlers. We nerd out on so many different things. And there's just a special bond out there that people that care first. You know, I hired a lot of people in my time, and I looked more at the person's care factor than their experience. Experience I can give you. I can't download care. And when I meet people that actually care, they always excel. They really do.
Yeah.
And that's something that you do, and why I enjoy you so much as a friend and somebody I get to work with. How much better is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you so much. That means the world to me.
It's a pleasure. It really is.
All right, people. So let's grow those companies. Let's get more green M&Ms.
Yay, man.
And let's use Dan to help you accomplish that goal. So thank you, Profit Hackers. We'll have more of these interviews coming up that are hopefully helpful for you. And we will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please like and subscribe for weekly episodes to help you fuel your profit, level up your cash flow, and finance your growth. Until next time, go enjoy some green M&Ms and protect that cash.